Yes, welcome to Libertarians Drinking Coffee Live. I'm so happy that you are here with me today. It's a little bit past 3 p.m. on the East Coast. And you know, I am very happy that you have decided to give me a chunk of your afternoon. Why? Because I have with me someone who is doing the utterly insane thing of running for president of the United States. I have the man with me, a Libertarian candidate who some of you may have seen on one of our recent forums, the man himself, Joshua Rodriguez. How are you, sir?
I'm doing excellent. Thanks for having me on.
Of course, absolutely. If you want to see what Joshua is doing, you can head over to his website. It is Joshua4, that's F-O-R, not the number, Joshua4unity.com. So, Joshua, I have to ask you, there are many ways any of us can make impact in the liberty movement, right? Lots of ways. So we could run for office or the type of things. But you haven't just decided to run for office. You've decided to run for president. Please tell me why.
Yeah, I think I grew up in a family, right? Christian family. We always have done a lot of community service. And so I remember dropping food off at domestic violence victims and, boxes of food for those families and stuff like that. It's something that my mom is very passionate about. And so as a millennial, I think most millennials are very volunteer kind of oriented, spirited people.
Okay.
And so when you think of going out to your favorite restaurant, a lot of millennials, myself, will pick restaurants that kind of give back to the community in some sort of way. And so when I got old enough and had kids, community has been one of the most important factors, part of my life. And so been a nonprofit operator for over 5 years now. So when I think of giving back and showing that as an example for my own children to kind of follow, they kind of have like a volunteer spirit from when they grow up and kind of carry that on. It's been something that I kind of always been with me. And so I ran for mayor in 2018 and United States Senate for 22. And so I've gained a lot of experience doing a lot of community activities. And so I definitely encourage people to go to my website, Joshua for Unity, and kind of research a little bit more about me. But
you didn't really answer my question, though. I mean, I like what you said. Don't get me wrong. I love community, all about it. I agree with you 100% in what you just said. But running for mayor, that's really different than running for president, is all I'm saying, right? Why'd you pick president? I'm not saying you shouldn't. Please, there's no judgment on this. But people are going to ask. This guy ran for mayor. He likes local, right? So why president? That's the question I'm asking you. Why president? Or maybe why president? Why president? And maybe even why now? Let me ask that question.
Yeah. I think the most important factor is most people, when they run in politics, they kind of wait. You're going to be maybe 45, 50 years old, possibly retired, right? So maybe you're 65. There's a less of a financial impact to your own personal life, right? Your family, the people you love, your loved ones. And so for me, I could have campaigned really hard for mayor, right? Started there, which, I had that experience. For me, I don't want to wait around 4 years as mayor or even decades as senator to impact change. One of the reasons why I ran initially was the Parkland shooting in Florida, where kids passed away, and so you hear that that voice on the radio, right, saying we need someone to step up and run. And so I'm here now running because I don't want to wait. There's so many issues going on, and most people are concerned locally. If you think federally, national politics, people might not have that mindset of what's really going on in the whole world around them. And I remember when I first ran, it was, hey, do you know about community issues? When I ran for Senate, do you know about national politics?
Yep.
Do you know about worldwide issues? And when you think about Libertarian, ending war, a lot of those factors are kind of instilled into me. And I want to have that greater change. And so
you
I'm here
don't want to
running
wait.
now.
You want to make the impact now. That's what you're saying.
Exactly. I'm not trying to wait. Yeah.
Gotcha. I like that. That's good. So I'm going to take a question from one of our viewers. She says a bunch of stuff. Let me grab a couple of her comments. She says, this is, I think it's Galactica Grace. She says, yay, love libertarians supporting libertarians. She goes on to say, yes, we have to be an example of what we see in the world. I think you have a fan, Joshua. I think you have a fan. But the question is, you think you'd be a good face for Libertarians? Do you think you'd get more than Gary Johnson? Now, this is a big question here, right? I mean, to be forward, Gary Johnson has been and still is the biggest vote getter Libertarians have ever had, right? He got about 3% of the vote, about 4.5 million votes. You know, for us, that's the top of the line, right? So I guess what Galactica is asking is, where do you see yourself? Are you going to beat him, match him, not make it? What do you think?
Yeah, in my mind, I'm thinking like an Olympic athlete. You know,
Okay.
I'm not here to lose. I have a vision to win, right? And so when I go out there every single day, when I'm on social media, when I think about stuff, I'm envisioning that win. You know, I'm envisioning myself at this big giant table with all these important people discussing issues about how to pull our troops out of countries and strategies to actually end war. And so when you think about the national debate stage and running for president of the United States, I have that vision. And so when I hear other libertarians say, oh, 3 million votes, you know, you probably are not going to win, you know, in my mind, that no, we're going to win this coming up 2024.
So then let me ask you, how do you handle all the obstacles that obviously come along with that, right? If it was an easy thing, we'd all run and we'd all win. So clearly to make this happen, it's going to be a massive mountain for you to climb. Again, not saying you can't climb it. I'm just saying it's going to be a massive mountain to climb. So how do you, first step, how do you get the two things that I think matter, maybe disagree, cash and popularity, right? Those two things are going to get you the votes you need to win the thing. How do you get the cash and, or unless they're the same, the popularity?
Yeah, they're going to be in part the same, right? Every libertarian candidate will get a war chest of about $3 million. That's your war chest. Now, if you're talking about money and how does the libertarian win, it's going to be $3.6 billion for libertarian to win. And that's
$3.6 billion.
$3.6 billion. That's spending $24 on each person to get their vote.
Okay.
That's a huge number. And so if any presidential candidate would ever say, like, I'm going to generate $3.6 billion, it's not happening. And so you have to use what we're talking about right now, popularity. How do you do that? And I think it's about being authentic, being yourself, and just engaging the community and finding ways to reach them where they're at. And so I'm very active on social media. And so when it's time to become nominated, I think people are going to start researching candidates. Who's the candidate that matches who they are? Who's going to benefit them at the local level? And I say that because a lot of national politics might not be such a big concern. Yes, healthcare, the justice system, a lot of those issues are really impacting our community. Even the war on drugs that libertarians talk about the most, young people are experimenting with drugs and they're getting access to fentanyl-laced products and they're ODing. And so I'm constantly getting reached out to parents who say, how are you going to end war on drugs when, you know, my son just passed away? And so those are the sorts of things that I have to be able to be sympathetic to when I'm talking about these issues. But it's experience running for mayor.
So what you're saying, if I get it, is you're not going to focus on the cash. You're going to focus on the popularity and then hope the cash comes from popularity. Did I read you right or no?
I don't think I need cash. Honestly, I don't
need cash.
I don't think we need cash in a campaign. One viral video can take care of it right there. And so there's a huge power of social media, but you need to be able to travel to those events and just show up, right? Show up to community meetings, show up at the school. You know, youth-led events are huge. And so if you have
hold on. So you're saying, if I get you right, you're saying since you're going to get as a general rule, you're right. You get about $3 million, right? That's going to happen. You believe that as long as you can be popular, the money is irrelevant in this case because you can be popular enough to get over the hump of cash.
Yeah, in a sense, right?
Okay.
And so a lot of politicians, you know, they're just all talk. They say this, they say that.
True.
I'm running authentically. And so if you like my message, it's going to resonate with you. And when I'm at the local, and I'm going to be utilizing colleges and, you know, the youth. And so I'm going to be connecting with those youth organizations at universities. We're going to rent out those big auditoriums and we're going to talk. We're going to invite the community to come out. We're going to invite guest speakers, and we're going to go do that tour, and we're going to reach the community that way. And so that message will be recorded. It's going to resonate with people, and it's going to be an engagement where young people are the next generation. And so that's huge for me. That's my target. That's where I think the Libertarian needs to really point their message towards. You know, we have this older generation that's getting older. We have the millennials now that are the leaders. We really have to target the Gen Zs. This is a party for them.
The way you make impact then is by targeting younger voters and a younger demographic, and then trying to get them to go basically get you to go viral is the issue.
No, they have to be boots on the ground, right? You create those campaign materials. They go out and knock on doors for you. They're really promoting your message. And so we're going to utilize our university and young people greatly in my campaign.
Okay, well, it looks like Kenneth is on your side. Kenneth says, I like we are seeing more younger libertarians stepping up and running to make a difference, especially early in the election cycle. Working to spread the message now was what will pay off in the decades. It will take that time to fix the Democrats, Republicans that are broken. I agree with you. So let me ask the question, and Tubb brings this up. He says, what's your biggest draw, right? What's the message that can win over, outside of libertarians, right? Clearly, if you just yell government bad, libertarians come, right? That's a simpler message. But you're saying, no, you're going to go to these places, put this message out, the youth are going to jump on.
Yeah, about healthcare a lot, and that really coincides with the ending war. And so we spend, a huge amount of money, especially this past year, maybe in the excess of 1.5 trillion just in one fiscal cycle. And so if we can refocus that idea about how we invest in our future, healthcare can be it. And so we can deregulate the FDA. We can do all sorts of things to really focus as a world on things like curing cancer, curing HIV. Mm-hmm. And so when you have presidents that... Hold on,
I got to touch that real fast. So let me touch that. I got to tell you, since, Clinton, we've been talking about curing cancer and curing HIV. So, at least 30 years, right? We've been talking about curing cancer and curing HIV. What's different between you and the last 5 presidents or whatever who've all said the same thing?
Yeah, the Libertarian Party.
Okay.
I can cure HIV myself within 100 days of being president of the United States.
100 days?
Just by abolishing the FDA, just by getting them out. That's how you do it. And so we have to trust, in some part, our scientists. So give it back to the scientists. As a government, we can support our community members by connecting with other countries. And so when we think about terms of world peace, it's not a naive idea. We can really impact and focus on those ideas. And so getting rid of drug patents would be another example. Really focusing on health and people. Okay.
Brian's on your side. He says, healthcare issue. Every veteran in the VA system is now effectively under house arrest. The VA will only send meds to home. Historically, it would fulfill meds on request so you wouldn't run out when traveling. Now only fill meds when it determines you are about to run out. This makes it so vets cannot travel except with the government permission. The VA is a big issue here, right? And I think a lot of veterans, and the Liberty Movement, it's filled with veterans, a lot of veterans in the Liberty Movement. The VA, when it comes to something simple like I broke my leg or something, the VA is actually not bad, right? They're not bad in the simple things like that. But now get diagnosed with cancer or have PTSD or an invisible, right, issue like TBI or, something like that. And the VA is a disaster. So do you have an answer or some issue to deal with the VA in the case of Brian?
Yeah, hearing loss. That's another huge one.
Yes.
I feel like anything the government touches, and I think this is just a libertarian idea, they basically almost ruin it. And so when we think about our soldiers, it's almost like they ruin people. And so I had a best friend that passed away, that died by suicide, was somebody that loved the military, got very hurt, and basically took his life. And so I'm impacted by those sorts of issues every day. And I have family members right now who who are suffer from mental health issues. And so it definitely hits home personally. And so when you think about our next generation and how do we train those folks to be productive members, that's the focus. And so in the cycle of changing our idea about how to engage the world in war, right, we can be focusing on technology and training for our young people. These young people might have, mental health conditions. They're not functioning properly in their home life. And so they need help. They need a place to go. And then oftentimes they end up in the military. But then it gets worse for them. They might end up very suicidal, dependent on drugs and those sorts of things. The folks, when you hire a libertarian like myself, we're going to end the war on drugs. And so you're going to have access to the medication that suits you with the help of your doctor, right? And so we're not going to be questioning you about, oh, you can't take this, so there's a restriction on that because of some arbitrary rule. You're going to get the help you need. And our community, because you had committed a service, you're going to get every single benefit that's owed to you 100%. Without these restrictions. This is how it should be, and all the red tape will just go away. Less government is the libertarian way.
So if you're listening right now or watching right now, either on YouTube or Twitter, wherever you're watching this, and you like what you hear, you can support Joshua if you want to. Head over to his website, Joshua for Unity. It's Joshua, and then 4 is FOR, unity.com. And if you've got some cash to give, go ahead, give it. If you think it's appropriate, you want to support him, please support him. It's great. Whatever, every little bit you counts. He's not saying he wants lots of cash, but he does need some cash because you got to give those palm cards out, right? He's got to do some Facebook ads. He's going to get all the youth to show up. So some cash. But if you're saying, Larry, I don't have that much money, no worries. He also needs volunteers. Never forget, all these candidates also require volunteers. If you're near him, no worries. You can go and hang out with him and door knock with him or go to one of his events. Oh, great. If you're not near him, it's okay. He needs social media warriors too. Yes, all good. Yes. So if you can, Joshua for Unity. If you like what you're seeing, if you want to support him, that'd be great. So I got to ask another question though, Joshua. I mean, most libertarians don't win, right? Have you decided on a secondary definition of a win, right? Like, so if you don't win the presidency or don't win a nomination, is there some other thing you might see as a win, or no, that's it, eye on the prize, win or lose? Have you decided either way on this?
Yeah, I think when you think about having a voice, I think every candidate that I can ever think of is frustrated with politics. And so, right, they're going to go out and they're going to kick and scream and yell and stomper. They're going to do it all over social media. They're going to go to every single events and they're going to scream on the top of their lungs. And so that's kind of like where I'm at right now. I've been frustrated about all the issues that my local community has been, struggling with, teen suicide, youth gun violence. When I go and research and talk and go to those community events, I talk to victims, I talk to those parents, I talk to those friends, and I have to understand it in a deeper way. And so it impacts me greatly. And so when you ask the question, why wait? Why not go do mayor first?
Sure.
I think that there's a time limit. There's an extreme time limit. So I envision myself winning because that's what I feel like it needs to happen. But if I can have a voice, a larger voice, I'll be able to help. I'll be able to help. And so when I'm researching all these issues, I can talk to the community and say, hey, this is an issue to deal with. Here's how we can fix it. So when you hire a leader, you're hiring someone with a vision. And so you need a politician to do that. A lot of people don't like politicians, but as a politician, I'm the one that has to take all the burden on myself, and I'm volunteering for that. And so most people, they don't want the stress. I'm volunteering to be that person, to have a voice and to help. And so that's why I'm running for president of the United States. And so if it's a secondary thing is a voice, I'll take it.
There we go. Have you decided on a VP candidate? That's a question from Joe.
Yeah, that's a good question. I've been asking. And so finding someone personal that I can trust and someone that's willing to do it. And so it's really hard to know whether or not the Libertarian Party will just accept a VP candidate that of my choice. I think with the Libertarian Party, I think what we need to do is really find someone that we all can agree on. And so, it'll be something that I'll be happy to oblige greatly. When we think about all the candidates,
you're open.
I'm definitely open. But when you think about all the candidates, even like yourself, there's going to be candidate positions. And so as we're all campaigning and working together, those are open spots. They're going to go to people that
I'm not campaigning.
Yeah, you don't have to campaign, but right now, every time you talk about a candidate, you're becoming more knowledgeable than probably anybody I know. And so you're a trust user. And so when you think about spots in the cabinet, including VP, Secretary of Defense, those are going to go to the people that come on
I'm
your
open
show.
to all of those. You're right. I'm open to all of those, 100%. Yeah, I love it. So let me do this kind of sad that Brian talked about. Brian says VA and cancer. My friend had a colonoscopy 4 years ago. They found cancer, but didn't tell him. Now he's dying from colon cancer. Brian, I wish that was the only story I've heard. The amount of people, and someone close to me recently lost somebody because VA dropped the ball, and they do it constantly. Again, if it's something simple, again, like I fell down and broke my arm, the VA is fine, right? They'll patch you up, get you out. They're good. I think past them, they're in trouble. I'm only bringing this up because you brought up healthcare a couple of times, Joshua, and there are people here who are not talking about it. Patty comes up. She says, healthcare is number one for all humans of all ages. Environmental protection stance. Do you see how one affects the other? So she says, you know, she's with you on healthcare, but she then goes to environmental protection. Do you have a stance on that? Do you see them connected? She obviously believes they're connected. I think many Americans would agree with her. Do you agree with her, or do you have a stance on that?
Yeah, I had a coworker that was very high in the military, and that's just because of the work I do in my personal life. But he walked around in a boot. His LCL ligament was torn, and so he was walking around in a boot 6 months waiting for his surgery. And so when you think about healthcare and process improvement, how do we improve healthcare process? And so, yes, I worked in the chemical industry. I know what companies do and don't do. If you have a chemical manufacturer and they're venting fumes from a chemical process because they're concerned with health, and there's a gym next door, right? And that chemical is not banned in the United States, so they can still produce it here, but it's banned in Europe. It makes you question. You go to the gym, it's your favorite gym, you go there for 20 years, right? Now all of a sudden you're sick and you don't know why. Yes, you can mix that with the VA having bad process issues, but the healthcare system in general needs help. And so when you start thinking about funding and profits, that's almost like a higher concern. Oh, having issues with profit, regardless of we're actually not, we're forgetting to tell people that they're sick, right? And so
is your environmental stance? I want to make clear on this. Is your environmental stance we should be copying, say, many of Europe's standards? Or are you saying we should be more transparent? Or are you saying we should be banning more things, or zoning should change because of like chemical plants versus spaces that people exercise in? I'm not sure where. I agree with what you said. I'm not sure where your stance is.
Yeah, I think it's a complex issue. And so I guess what I'm trying to say simply is I'm a scientist. And so I understand it in a deeper way, right? You can go out and hire all the lawyer politicians you want, but you know, they're thinking about the law 100% of the time. So when as a libertarian, I'm going to be thinking about the people over profit in a science-minded way. And so libertarians often might say, abolish the EPA. And so that's your question. Will I just abolish the FDA or the EPA and then let them, the community members, decide whether it's good or bad? And I would just like to say, if it's research-based, I'm going to look at it in a different way. When you think about the FDA, those sorts of things, it's just a person that's bias-minded. And so the FDA might also have two people, one talking about an alternative argument and another talking about another alternative argument. And then now you have a president that might be Democrat or Republican. They choose, well, we're going to choose the Republican side or the Democrat side idea on this particular topic. When you hire a libertarian president like myself, you're going to get someone that's going to focus on the right choice and focus on the people over profits. And so when you talk about someone's health, that's something that I care about. And so we're going to have to look at it in a deep way. And so there's no easy answer. Will I be banning things like red dye number 40, right? Europe banned red dye number 40. Should we be doing it? We know in our past that dyes do have metals and they cause issues. And that's kind of like the birth of the reason that we even have the FDA in the first place. And so it's a very complex issue. And so I can't just give a straightforward answer.
Okay. I got it. So I want to go to one more. Joe is asking a lot of questions. I'm going to give Joe one more because he's being very forward here. What's the federal government's role in regards to migration? So, there is, clearly immigration is a big deal right now. Libertarians are on both sides of this fence, right? Absolutely. And America's on two sides of the fence. I'm using fence on purpose, pun intended. So tell me, what do you think the federal government's role is when it comes to migration?
Yeah, as a libertarian, one of my promises is to abolish ICE. And so when we start thinking about law enforcement in general, it's going to have to be, it has to go back to the states' rights. And so I'm going to be supporting our states everywhere, any way I can. And so we have elected officials. The Constitution says your state has its own authority. And so we're going to be working with my administration. We would work with those states and work with those elected officials. And we're going to be doing it with a libertarian viewpoint. And so it's the idea of Texas, right? If you look at the Texas libertarian platform, it's much different than, let's say, the free market, trade agreements that we have that we want to do with the national platform. It's very different at the local level. And so we have to connect with those local levels and say, hey, do you want to open the border, right? Maybe national, everyone says yes, but locally, we have to look at see what's best for them, because I can't just dictate every single state in a nutshell. Work at the local level. We can't just say in general, this is a federal thing, all the borders are open, right? And so if that particular state says we have special needs, I'm going to go there, we're going to figure it out, and we're going to make it happen. You hired your elected officials, and those are the people we're going to work with. Like what they're doing, don't hire them.
You also bring up something on your website, and then it's important to you. It's diversity and justice. The same thing again, in the current left-right paradigm, you got to pick a side, right? You either got to be anti-woke or you got to be super woke, right? That's what you got to be, right? That's kind of the way it is in our left-right paradigm. Where do you sit? You bring it up. Where's your point here? Where do you land? Or is it completely different?
It's hard to know. I guess you have to kind of everyone has to judge for themselves on what diversity kind of means to them. The Libertarian Party is going to say you have a right to freedom to pursue happiness. And so when you think about how that changes for you just as a youth, right, growing up in an institution, an educational system, and then trying to go into an adulthood, we do have issues where I think the statistic is 60% of our jails are packed right now with people with mental health and drug issues. And so that's why they're in there, right? And so if you hire a libertarian like myself that says we're going to end the war on drugs, I automatically release 60% of our community that are in chains right now. And so that's a huge impact. So when you think about diversity and justice, that's it right there. And so that's not even talking about issues related to abolishing law enforcement. And so my main thing is about impacting the people and finding ways to have police alternatives. And I think that's where most of the issues come into play. Libertarians believe that you have the right to be the person who you want to be, and government should not dictate that at all.
There we go. Guys, if you like what you're hearing, you can go support Joshua. It's Joshua for Liberty. That's FOR if you're listening in the podcast. Joshua for FOR Unity.com. You can check them out if you want to donate money. That's awesome. You can use the cash if you want to give him that, or you can volunteer for him too. Volunteer on social media, volunteer personally in his area, help him do an event someplace. He can use bodies and he can use money. If you can do either of those, that's great. If you like what you're hearing, please do that. That's where he is. His links are in the description. He's on Twitter. He's on all the social media things, but go to his website and you can connect to him in all the other ways. Can I ask you some, I guess, personal, non-serious questions? Is that okay?
Yeah, let's go for it.
All right. Patty says, now does he have pets, and what is his marital status? So do you have pets, and what's your marital status?
Yep. Been married for 15 years now. My first and only true love, right? And so I have 3 kids, 2 girls and 1 little boy, and I have 8 dogs.
8 dogs?
Yep. Mom and dad and 6 puppies.
Wow. Okay, Patty likes you now. Last thing though is, what do you think about Dungeons and Dragons?
I think that I'm not sure because I don't participate in that too much, and so now you got me interested.
You lost a couple points in that one, but it's fine. You got the 8 dogs. So I think you got it
back.
Yeah,
I think I'm still on Roblox with the kids and stuff like that. So
there we go. So Joe says, most important question, is pineapple an acceptable pizza topping? And let me be clear before you answer. The answer is 100% no. I'm a New Yorker. The answer is no. You may not have pineapple on pizza, Joe. No, you may not. It should be against the law. I'm a libertarian on everything except that. That is my one place where I'm not libertarian. If you have pineapple on pizza, you should go to jail immediately with no trial. You should have no rights. All of your rights are removed because you had pineapple on pizza. You are no longer considered a citizen of America or of the world. You get no rights. I'm sorry. I'm a little bit biased on that one. Go ahead.
Do you hold the pizza with a fold, or does you hold it kind of straight where it just kind of does its thing?
You got to fold it, of course.
Fold it, yeah.
You know I'm a New Yorker, right? I mean, you guys all know I'm a New Yorker, right? So I have rules on this. I'm just saying I have rules on this. So he's just teasing me, by the way. That's all he's doing, Joshua. He's teasing me. But I just thought it was kind of funny to just give you that if I could. So I do want to ask then, again, hopefully you win. I hope you do. If you don't, what do you think the future is for you?
Yeah, I think right now the bigger question that most people do ask is how do you engage the next, where do you see the Libertarian Party? How do you make the Libertarian Party more unified? How do you unify, Libertarian and speak about and educate? All those are my goals. And so that's why I labeled my website Joshua for Unity. I think locally, though, when you have libertarian parties, you have a lot of leaders there. If you get a Gen Zer that comes up and raises their hand to volunteer to do a cabinet position, vote that person in. If they want to take over the full control of that libertarian section in your state, the county, whatever, hand it over. Let that Gen Z become the next generation of leaders in the Libertarian Party. That's their party now. And so when we're trying to say, should we focus on millennials? Should we focus on Gen Xers, et cetera, et cetera? We need to focus on the next generation. They're the one that's going to inherit $31 trillion in debt. They're the ones that are going to have to be responsible for a lot of the issues that are going on in our world today. But millennials right now, whether they want to or not, they've been working in the industry for 10, 12, 15 years now. They are the leaders. And so we really need to be able to reboot and focus on the next generation truly. And that's how we get a community that really stands and votes libertarian. There
we go. Well, everyone, thank you so much for watching. Josh, thank you for giving me, so much of your time this afternoon. I appreciate it.
Oh, you're welcome. I'm definitely glad to be here. And so I appreciate everyone that goes and visit my website, and I appreciate any donations too.
Absolutely. So remember, it's Joshua for Unity, FOR, Joshua for Unity. And all of his details, his connections are all in the description if you want to check it out on YouTube or Twitter. Guys, thank you so much for watching this afternoon. I will see you all